that we were having tech trouble,
And then we
and
just lost our
and then we
live
just lost
stream.
our live stream. So
So now
it's
we're
just
back.
this is just just the week that it is. No explanation.
Do you
That's
think it's
fine.
your cable again?
No, it happened. It didn't happen to you. Like our stream just stopped. So
But I thought it was because of you, because you run the stream.
but it's definitely not, because Restream, we all send our independent feeds to their servers, and then they send the feed out.
So you think it was a Restream problem?
Yeah, I do.
All right.
Okay.
Where were we? We were talking about why people don't like hypothesis, to state things as hypotheses.
Yeah. Why don't you talk just about some of the we were talking about we had someone just said this. So I will
Is it still frozen, do you think?
I'll check.
All right. These people are writing in telling us that we're frozen. But they probably, it's because it's probably a different stream now, right, Guthrie? Anyway, you want me to talk about research while you're doing this?
No, just give me 10 seconds. Hold on.
Okay. I have a hypothesis that streaming today is a problem. And I have evidence.
Okay. It's at least working on YouTube, so everything seems
someone just wrote in and said it's working.
Yay, we did it.
Thank you, and thank you for you guys for writing.
I will be let me check one more thing. You continue to expound for a minute or two, and I will be right back because I make sure everything is working here.
Okay. Well, Guthrie was just saying how people don't like doing this. They don't like stating their research as a hypothesis. But I guess, could we do a little brainstorm here and maybe figure out how we could get people to try it? Because I think it's a superior way. I also want to mention, all right, let's back up. I mean, obviously I'm used to hypotheses because I'm used to running experiments. And that was way before I was a consultant. That goes, as I mentioned, back to my graduate school days and my professor days, and when I ran experiments in the lab with mice and rats and all of that stuff. So I was always used to it, but I kind of came back around to it. I kind of forgot about it until maybe about, I don't know, 10 years ago, when I got into the whole lean process, lean startup, lean UX, because in the lean methodology, they use hypotheses, and that's how they decide when you're doing product design. You come up with a hypothesis about the product, about the users, about the feasibility, about a feature, whatever it is. You come up with a hypothesis, and you test a hypothesis one at a time. You build a prototype to test that hypothesis, then you test the hypothesis, then you learn from what you test, and then you decide on the next hypothesis to test. And when I first read about that whole lean method, as I said, it was probably about 10 years ago, I liked it right away, and I think part of it was because it had hypotheses in it, and I was it's like, oh, I remember working with hypotheses. Now, in the lean method, you're doing one hypothesis at a time. I'm not saying you should or have to do it that way. So when I use hypotheses in user research these days, I usually, or always, just about always, I'm testing more than one hypothesis at a time. So, because I'm not doing the lean method, I'm just using hypotheses to define and organize my research. So you don't have to do just one at a time. So typically, if you use this, you're going to have, I don't know, 2, 3, 5, 10. I think 10's a lot, but you could. I think I've done research that had 10 hypotheses that we were testing. But I mean, I think if this is your first time doing it, I would focus on like maybe 5. Now, another thing that does come from lean that I think applies here as well, is I just keep and I work with my clients to do this, a running list of hypotheses. Here are all the things. If we could do research forever and had an unlimited budget, here's all the hypotheses I'd like to test. And then as now it's like, oh, let's do some research. Which hypotheses are we going to test? And so here's the thing about research. Am I just talking on and on and on?
No, I'm
drink
having
a cup
fun.
of coffee. You're having fun because you don't have to say anything.
No, but also you're just rolling.
I get excited.
You're rolling. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah, I just heard you snicker there. I just wondered what the snicker was for.
I snickered.
So when you do any kind of research, not just hypothesis-based research, you typically get, at the end of it all, you have some answers and you have more questions. And a lot of times you have more questions than answers. And that's okay. I always tell our clients that's okay. So, you find out X, you find out that here are the top 5 reasons that people are coming to your website, but now you have more questions. Something that came up in the research is like, oh, but why is it that some clients are coming for this and other clients are coming for that? So you always end up with more questions. And I think it's really important to capture the questions. This is true then also of hypotheses. So if you have a set of hypotheses and you say, okay, let's test these 4, let's do some research around these 4. You still have the other 4 that you didn't do research on. And then coming out of this research you did, you're going to have more hypotheses because you'll learn. So I think you should always have a backlog of things you wish you could do research on. And then everyone can decide, it'd be like, hey, we still have these, 7 hypotheses we haven't tested. So do we need to do research now? Or, can we move forward with our decision making, knowing what we know now and not knowing these other 7 things? What's the risk of that? What's the danger of that? If we move forward and make decisions with these hypotheses outstanding and we don't have answers for them, is that going to hurt us later on? I think it's a really, really good way to think about it.
This is the really high level UX research thinking that you're doing, that I don't think most people are thinking this way. And we had a previous podcast where we talked about standards and guidelines.
Yeah.
The time organizations would save if they had a standard repository of hypotheses or even just things that are true about users. The really nice thing about doing things as a hypothesis is that you can test it and you get an answer, and then what you use that for can be used across different departments who are trying to answer different questions. So, for example, let's say we have a hypothesis: our average users are over the age of 45, right? And someone in one of the many teams doing research, and whether it's the business team or the dev or the UX or whatever, they do that research. They're like, actually, most of our users are between 30 and 35, right? And that is a false hypothesis. And they put that in there. The fact that then there is a hypothesis with an answer, any department can use that research, and it could actually be useful. we have clients where um, they're I mean the I remember there's one client in particular. They didn't even they were a really really large company, but they were so large they didn't even realize that we had done work with a there was the exact same work was being done
By a
in a
different
different
group
department in a different group within the same company, and they both reached out to hire us because
to do the
but
same
completely
thing.
separately. They had no idea we were already a vendor. um, but I think a lot of organizations are not sophisticated enough or together cross department. That requires a corporate level of organization that most companies do not have
Don't
that
have.
sophistication for.
But
Um,
but that doesn't mean you shouldn't go ahead and do the research and collect and store the data.
no, but then what do I get it, and this is just a bigger question, right? How do you when you do research, how do you save it? How do you
Yeah.
maintain it? When people leave, how do you make sure that
Yes.
subject matter knowledge doesn't disappear with them? I mean, we have a question from LinkedIn here that I'll put up on the screen. Um,
Yeah, what is the question?
do you not see it?
Yeah, but I thought we'd read it out loud.
Oh, that would make sense. Yeah, that would make sense for people listening to the podcast. How should we keep track of all the questions we get while testing all the hypotheses? Because the questions will keep increasing.
Right, right. You know, y- you can do it any way you want. You have some kind of Kanban, you have a spreadsheet, you
Database,
have a database, you have a Miro board. Just capture it
GitHub.
somewhere. Yeah, I mean it's best if it's in a
Spreadsheet.
format that other people can easily get to. And then what you can do, as if you have this running list, right? Then you can prioritize or just go pick which ones we're going to do. And then, I suggest, along with what Guthrie was just saying, that when you get an answer, this hypothesis is true, this hypothesis is false, you note that with the particular research or date of the research or person who did the research or link to the research.
You know what's really funny?
But
There are some sections of business that do such a phenomenal, some business departments in organizations that do such an amazing job with this. So think of the marketing department, right? Or where they have like this, like the CMS,
yeah,
um, or like the sale, like Salesforce, right?
yeah,
In the sales department where they have like the leads, not a month goes by
right.
between they
Everything is
know,
tracked.
oh, you've
No,
changed jobs, this email address doesn't
right.
work, oh,
Last
this
time
is the
we
new phone
contacted
number.
this person was
They have
we contacted them during this
this
campaign.
time
They
every
got
email
these
is linked
emails.
to each thing, and you just go in and there's a perfect list and you can sort and you can see all the
Right.
connections and all the other
Yeah.
things, and oh,
Yeah.
they did this product and then they did this product, and then
Right.
they open this email for 2 seconds, like they has all the
Right.
information perfectly in there, completely up to date, nothing, things sunset automatically if they're too old. If they get too old, it's flagged. It's
Yes.
like, oh, this better make sure that this contact is like still in the system. And they just do an incredible job. And then if you walk over to like the UX department and they're like, we're doing research, there's nothing. It is
Nothing.
like
No
like
tools, no tracking.
someone had an Excel doc in their personal OneDrive
Somebody
folder
had
6 years ago.
a table in a Miro board. Try and go
One of the
find
Miro,
that.
but there were like four versions. It's just nothing. So it's really incredible that
It
so
has
these are problems in which there are solutions because other
yes.
departments tackle them in much more sophisticated ways, and they do an amazing job.
It is a
But
question of importance to the organization. And so are people putting money and time and resources towards it? You know, uh, if you said to the sales department, we don't think it's worth it to track this anymore, right? I mean, that probably wouldn't, they'd probably
I have a
say,
suspicion. I wonder
yeah,
if you could even hack. I mean, hack is not the right word, but you know, um, you know, convert a sort of a sales
There's probably
repository
there is
to your own
probably
whims.
a Salesforce app that you could use to do this. I'm sure there's
They do
definitely
everything.
ways to do it. It's just
Pipedrive. We use Pipedrive.
yeah, it's just a question of, who's going to keep all the data in there, who's going to put the new data in, who's going to maintain it,
Yeah.
who's going to use it and look things up. I just think it's a question of, how important is this? And where the next example of tracking this kind of stuff might come from. It's the data science group in your
Right.
organization
Yep.
that's doing like machine learning, because
Oh, they have
what
such a cool like so many organizations. With the each little there was a quarter second ping in
yes,
Indonesia that
yes.
caused a spike in this, and
But the thing is, the machine learning people are doing hypotheses and doing hypothesis testing. They're not doing it in the same topics and questions and hypotheses that we would have for UX research,
sure.
but they're tracking hypotheses and whether they're true or not. I mean, they're doing it.
Is this
So
picture an apple or not an
that's
apple?
right.
That's how they have
No,
the
they as
training
a
their neural networks and stuff.
this picture. Well, as a hypothesis, it would be this picture is an apple,
Right.
true or false. So they're tracking it.
And with what confidence? So, like if you have like facial detection software, it doesn't know that it's a face, but you can, the model will say, you have to turn the thing on where it's in the corner. It's like a
Right.
75%
Percent
accuracy,
chance
80%
that it is.
accuracy. Oh,
Right,
that's a
right.
half the head. It's 50-50. They don't know.
Right.
Might be, it's a
So
banana,
so we
1%
know the
accuracy.
software is there, but
Well, but is it used for that? There are
it's not used.
something could be used. People are doing more sophisticated things than keeping track of some simple headers
Yes, what
and
we want is
research.
quite simple. But is there enough interest in, the asking these questions about customers and users and user experience is, I don't think, is seen as being important enough by the people who get to decide what's important. And I don't think they're all that interested in getting answers to the hypotheses, although obviously I think they should be. And I don't think they're all that interested in tracking and reusing this data across the organization. I don't think they get it. I don't think they see it. So, yeah, that's why it's not happening. Guthrie, I don't know what to do about that problem. That's like a whole nother episode. Why doesn't anyone care what we're doing? But
Because it
I think
doesn't bring in money directly.
right.
Yeah, well, that's the and scene, right? That's the we've
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
a short
that
episode.
can yeah. They're the 10-second podcast episode. Why doesn't anyone in the organization care? Because it doesn't bring in money. Okay, next week we're going to talk about
Directly bring in money, but yeah,
directly bring in money. It does bring in money, or it
bring money.
saves money, but yeah, people don't
If
care
it
about
didn't, they wouldn't be doing it.
right. But regardless of all those problems, I do think that if you are doing UX research, I think you should try it out. I think you should experiment. And, here's the thing, you can combine it with the regular kinds of questions you ask. There's nothing that says, when I do this next piece of UX research, I have to do it either as, quote, regular questions, unquote, or as hypotheses. No, you can experiment, try it out. Next time you're doing research, throw in one thing you want to know written as a hypothesis. Just try it and see what you think and see what it's like and see what the conversation with the team is like as you're coming up with it and see what the conversation is like as you get your answer. I would say just try it out. If you haven't tried it out before, just try it out, because I think it's interesting and I think it's kind of fun and I think it will lend a level of depth and sophistication and fanciness, as you said, Guthrie, to your research. That's what I think.
I'm going to hypothesize that this podcast episode will come to an end soon.
I'm going to hypothesize that here's a hypothesis to test because I don't know what the answer is, that this will be one of our most popular episodes. And then we can find out.
I'm going to hypothesize that not only will this become one of our most popular episodes, but
Yes.
it will lead to us becoming fabulously independently wealthy.
We
will test
that. Although, in order to test that, I think we'd have to be a little more specific about what fabulously independently wealthy means.
Oh, that's a good question. I would say what, like 100 million a piece.
Okay, so the hypothesis is that after this, see, this is a great example because now we have to get specific.
I did this on purpose.
You did not. Now we have to get specific. The hypothesis is that within what time span? We got to be specific. Not after
1 year.
Within
months.
1 year of this episode airing, both Guthrie and Susan will what?
Have net worths.
Have net worths
of over
100
million US dollars.
There you go.
We'll test it out.
We're going to test this hypothesis.
I wonder what's going to happen.
Yeah, I wonder. I don't wonder that much, but we can wonder if that's what you'd like to do. All right. Guthrie, what else is going on and what's coming up? And I guess, there is stuff coming up. There is.
I just wanted to, there might be a couple conferences we might be speaking at.
No, there is a conference I am speaking at.
Right.
I'm speaking at the BAD conference, which is not bad at all. But I think Behavioral Action Design Conference, which is actually happening both in person and virtually. It's at the same time. We're very close to the same dates. In London, I'm attending virtually because I can't travel that week because it conflicts with something else. But that's my talk is May 17th. If you want to, it's on the science of decisions. If you want to check out the BAD conference, you might want to check that out because we've spoken at that conference before, and it's a really good one. Lots of good talks. So that's coming up. You got any other announcements for people?
I guess. We do. We have one more question. I should just say happy 420 to everyone out there. If you have coming up in the next couple of months, we may be a little busy. Would be May and June, so we'll see. We'll see. There may be some gaps in the old podcast schedule.
We may have some problems with some Wednesdays. Yeah.
We have. We'll keep. We are looking. We are always looking for people to apply for contractor roles.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Especially, we have a particular request, which is just a little hard to fill right now for more senior people. That's sort of up to our clients, but. So if you are more senior,
so if people are interested in applying for our contract positions, what is the best way for them to do that?
Oh, they can just email me, or if they can get to, I have links I think on our LinkedIn where I have the job posting, or just email me and I can get it there.
Okay.
And we do have a quick. Oh, what were you gonna say?
The email address is
info@theteamw.com.
Okay.
I do have one more quick question.
Yeah. You want to read it?
Is it okay to have an unrealistic hypothesis? Should we eliminate any hypothesis just by evaluating it ourselves?
I think, well, it's interesting. It depends on what you mean by unrealistic. So again, remember when you word your hypothesis, you can word it in the positive or the negative. and then prove it either true or false. I would, I wouldn't have any hypotheses that we don't really care about knowing the answer to, or we all, we already know. In the last research we did, we answered the question about whether everyone was over 45 years old. So, let's not ask it again. So, but, so I guess it depends what unrealistic means. But if it is something you truly want to know, and the other thing that you should do hypothesis testing on is all the assumptions, not all, but the important assumptions that everyone thinks you don't have to research because we all know it to be true. Those are the ones I I really like to test, because it's like, okay, why do we know that's true? Oh, well, we just know that. Okay, like, where's the data for that? So, is that unrealistic? I don't know. Probably not.
I guess there are certain hypotheses you
You
could
mean
do.
like
So
the one we did about
yeah,
$100
no,
million?
but like, that's all in all seriousness, you can do that, but it's then very quickly to you can look at some, I would say, ancillary data to say, well, we can't, rule that out. It's preeminently unlikely,
Yes.
based on the number of people who have that amount of wealth in the United States, and based on our the we could have a confidence interval for the range of
Yeah.
podcast listens and potential outcomes that it would have, that posting a podcast would have, and none of that gets to the tier of becoming independently wealthy with one
Yes.
podcast. And so,
So
while
why
you
do
can't,
it?
well, no, so there's, there are hypotheses that are easy to test, hypotheses that are hard to test, and hypotheses that that are, potentially are like possible, but so unlikely, that it's, it's just a matter of whether I'll put it this way. If you are if you are if you're selling like a mobile app, okay, that's one level of like having a certain confidence interval about whether things may or may not happen is one level. If you are in OSHA talking about, if you you work with dangerous chemicals, right, and you are, trying to determine the, potential that there could be negative side effects of any of the things that you do in your entire chain, right, that's a different level of confidence interval that's
Yeah.
acceptable. So it's possible that in an organization, even if anything's like, well, if it's less than 10% probable, we'll just put it in the, we probably don't need to
Unrealistic,
do
right?
research
Yeah.
about that. Like, let's just, like, maybe that it's, we have enough data to determine that it's preeminently unlikely. And you can sort of put it into the, well, maybe do if we have nothing else going on category. It
Yeah,
just depends on
it
your
depends on,
organization.
right. But I think it is an important point that, you probably have a limited time and budget for research. So, you're going to want to do research on the hypotheses that are going to yield you the most important information for the decisions you need to make moving forward.
Yeah. So
So,
there's a combination of what's really important to you, a
yes.
combination of how, potentially, if you have any data supporting how likely an event may or may not occur,
Yes. Right.
or may or may not be true.
Yeah.
So, for example, we think, we hypothesize the majority of our users are over the age of 45. So there's two. So one is we have no data. We just think that's the case. Well, then that's more likely that you should investigate. Two, well, we did a Google survey and most of the people said that their data was over 45. Well, so that is a data point that would seem to indicate that that is true. But maybe if that's an important assumption about our target audience, we should
Right.
make sure and
Right.
actually go do some more research. But
Right.
but it's like, well, okay, we did that, but then we did like, this other piece of research, and it also suggested the same thing. Doesn't mean that you've proved it to be true, but now that's another sort of data point that says that hypothesis is likely true.
Yeah.
So it's just about what your confidence interval
Yeah.
is. So, okay.
All right, Guthrie. I think we're done for today. Thank you so
Yep.
much.
Sorry for all the tech stuff, as always.
Yeah.
But it's whatever. We'll just keep at it.
All right.
Not a
Thanks
big deal.
everyone for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.